We're watching several areas of disturbed weather that will lead to severe storms as we head into late this weekend into early next week. Plus, a cool down is on the way as we head into Labor Day weekend. So let's delve into the details and take a look at the overall setup. You can see on the vorticity map, we've got an area of disturbed weather that's really starting to get its act together as the low pressure is starting to deepen off the Pacific Northwest. We've got that cooler pocket that was inundating for areas across the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic. That is finally starting to retreat and move out, while much of the central part of the U.S. is still locked under that heat dome and baking. But you can see what's happening out in the Pacific. Yes, that is several storms. And actually, that's a hurricane. And some of these storms actually might get fairly close to Hawaii in the days ahead. So you can actually see it a little bit better on the overall low pressure map. You can see this conveyor belt of storms out there in the Eastern Pacific. Actually, three of them, three areas of disturbed weather. This is your actual hurricane. It is a Category 2 hurricane. All of these are trending westbound, but as they do, they're actually going to get fairly close to Hawaii. In fact, this hurricane is expected to get up to a Category 4 storm, but you can definitely see as it continues westbound, it is expected to weaken into a tropical storm. But it's this system out ahead of it that the National Hurricane Center sent out hurricane hunters out there today. And now we'll have to watch this storm as it continues westbound. And you can definitely see this one actually gets fairly close to the islands. We'll definitely be watching this pretty closely. But further into the United States, most of the country is pretty clear, folks. I mean, we've got pretty quiet weather other than those areas across Florida, but all that is likely going to change as we head into late this weekend. And it's all complements of that significant trough that's really going to start to build across the Pacific Northwest. That's going to be really dropping the anomalies. And at the same time, where it was cooler, that's going to replace with that ridge of high pressure. And as it does, we're going to be starting to see kind of a clash in temperatures. And as the vorticity map, the upper level low, this colder pocket aloft, if you will, that's going to be the driving force as water vapor comes back, feeding the storm to severe storms coming back for your Saturday, Sunday, and yes, into early next week. So if we look at the water vapor map as we head into Saturday morning, you can definitely see the moisture return with the southwest winds kicking in. That elevates the moisture content across those areas into the Dakotas, back in Nebraska, as well as into Colorado. Those are going to be the favorite areas as this low pressure center will be slowly moving from west to east. That's going to be the culprit and the lift mechanism to provide the severe storms as we head into a higher instability value. So if we look at the CAPE values, your convective available potential energy, yeah, these aren't like extreme high, but yes, definitely higher for, August standards. As they tap into that energy, it's going to tap into this cooler pocket aloft, and it should produce some stronger thunderstorms, and those will likely turn severe, especially as we head into the heat of the afternoon. And that's why we're looking at some of the dew points, and you can kind of see what we're talking about, where the drier air is really elevated. You're talking dew points in the 30s and 40s, while much into the central part of the U.S., we can see the dew points elevate well into the 70s, and that reaches all the way into the Canadian border. So yeah, definitely when you start to see these dew points rising so far north, and you've got some sort of lift mechanism coming in out west, that's typically the driving factor for severe weather. And I think that's exactly what we're going to be seeing starting on the day on Sunday. The Storm Prediction Center has already highlighted a marginal risk for severe weather as we head into Sunday, back through the Dakotas, through Nebraska. I think this actually only amplifies as we get into Sunday. But here's the vorticity map. You see these little swirls, these little lift mechanisms into the upper areas of the atmosphere. Further south, that is what's known as a tut low, or kind of an easterly wave that's literally moving from east to west. It's a fairly, not so common event, if you will, but it does have some cooler pocket aloft. So it should actually bring some beneficial rain showers for those areas across the deep south of Texas, starting on, going into your Monday time frame. But further north, we'll be looking for likely severe storms, because we'll have a lot of lightning to deal with as we head into the heat of the afternoon, going into that Sunday, Monday timeframe, as that upper level low will be traversing across from westbound to eastbound, tapping into some of those higher Cape values. And that spells trouble, especially as more water vapor gets fed up into the upper levels of the atmosphere. It's going to wring out the precipitation in the form of severe storms, likely some larger hail, some damaging winds upwards to 60 to 70 miles per hour at times, especially as we head into Minnesota and those get into Wisconsin on Sunday going into Monday. So for Sunday, the Storm Prediction Center has already highlighted a day 4 risk this far out across Grand Forks into Aberdeen. Those storms likely get bumpy, and we should be expanding, as we get closer to this event. But right now, my target areas around the Dakotas and back into Minnesota, and going into Monday timeframe, I think that's when it's going to swing more into Minnesota and especially into Wisconsin, as that low pressure center will be continued to traverse west to east, and that's a day 5 risk, folks. So fairly rare for late August standards, because typically you don't really see that much severe storms in the month of August. But we definitely have the combination of these upper level lows moving across, and the heat returns, moisture returns, but more importantly, we do have a fairly significant cool blast coming in from the northwest, and that will shift southeast and bring definitely some cooler anomalies on the backside. So after that severe storms move through, temperatures are expected to drop as we head into the middle of the week, and especially further south as we head into your Labor Day weekend. So by the time we head into Wednesday, you can actually see where this little cooler pocket aloft will start to unfold, especially getting into Canada here. That will drift into those areas of Montana, likely getting into Wyoming by then, and then it will only extend even further south as we get deeper into the middle of the week. So between now and Wednesday, here's where the precipitation is going to lie. We've got that stalled frontal boundary that's still going to bring all the action for Florida, bringing rounds of showers and thunderstorms for them. Of course, you have a dry pocket where that high pressure is, and then outside of that high pressure, that's where we have more instability. And especially as we start looking at up here to the Pacific Northwest, this will be traversing across from west to east, and then really tapping into some higher water vapor content going into the Dakotas, but especially for Minnesota and Wisconsin. Those likely are going to be the favorite areas, have the highest impacted weather as far as larger size hail and some damaging winds and some heavier rains, especially going Sunday into Monday. But it's pretty evident going into Wednesday, Thursday timeframe, that high pressure center that's been kind of dominant over a good part of the South will finally start to retreat at least a little bit. And as it does, that's going to open up the door for some northwest flow to come in, a much cooler flow, as that cooler pocket aloft will be drifting a little bit further south in the days ahead, wiping out that ridge of high pressure. And out ahead of it, we'll have to deal with some showers and thunderstorms out ahead of it. So you'll have a low pressure center that's likely going to be staying up into the Dakotas, getting up into Canada, and then there's your cool front draped across Iowa, back into Kansas here, getting into Oklahoma, and there's your overall tut low that will be moving across from Louisiana, getting into the deep south of Texas, and eventually swinging into areas of south central Texas as we move forward. And then by the weekend, that cooler pocket is fairly evident by then, as that low pressure center will be drifting in and that cooler pocket aloft will be settling down into the surface. We should be looking at temperatures drop in 10 to 15 degrees. So instead of those widespread hundreds, a lot of 90s and even some 80s will be making their appearance for Oklahoma and Texas. And some of the nighttime lows will even drift in the 70s, 60s, and could even go into the 50s into Oklahoma for this weekend. So this, you should be able to feel this cool down, heading into your Labor Day weekend as things start to moderate a little bit. You're still going to have to deal with the heat for about another week or so, but help is on the way in the form of some cooler air, and a kind of a brief taste of fall is definitely going to be on the table as we head into Labor Day weekend. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch my next update while I protect you before and after storm.